Yes, I should be.
13 viewers so far. So I would love to just like start by saying Salaam alaikum and Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Hope you guys are enjoying your Ramadan. But it's not one of them conversations, unfortunately. It's not like that right now. And to be honest, this is not a religious conversation. It's more of a communal conversation and what's been going on in the last couple of days. Main thing being is that I feel, and I'll be real with you and I'll be frank, because that's the sort of person I am, that our Ramadan technically has been like thrown on the floor and spat on and stepped on. And it has been disgusting, really, that what we've been seeing in this holy month and the way that certain people are still treating Shia Muslims and the way that people have this animosity towards us is horrible. But first of all, what sparked this all off is actually the death of Aya Hachem, and our thoughts go to Aya and her family. The discussion we're having is not about her or about her family. I mean, they've got enough stress and they've got enough problems as it is, so we're not here to talk about that. But this is what kind of instigated everything. So let's start from the beginning. Aya, unfortunately, was involved in a drive-by shooting in Blackburn. Now, from the article that I read, which was from The Guardian, they said that the police report was that she was technically in the wrong place at the wrong time. Meaning she wasn't the target, but unfortunately she got caught in the crossfire, or they thought she was like in this, yeah, they thought it was someone else. And unfortunately she was shot and she was killed. And you know, our thoughts go out to her family. It's a very, very difficult time. 19-year-old girl, got a whole life ahead of her. Fortunately, this didn't happen. And then the next thing we know, that on Twitter, everyone's been really, really upset. Everyone's been affected by it. And then there was, according to what I saw, there was some sort of fundraising going on for her, for the family, or in her name. And then it started to go south. So from what I know, there are two stories. All right. And I want to bring Chef Morty here, Murtada, because
Did you say Sheikh or Chef? Because there's only one of those on.
chef,
I was
chef,
about to say because
chef Morty.
I don't accept the prior
Yeah,
despite any.
but like Chef, right, Morty. Let's get real. Yeah, you've been on Shia Twitter a lot longer than I have, right? I'm not as active as you are, so you know what's going on. As far as I know, there's two stories. One
Oh, I've
is
been on there too long, by the way.
fair enough. There's two stories, yeah. One is they were fundraising for a mosque under her name or something, or in her honor, and there's another story about a funeral fund, or something like that. So can you clear that up, like from what you've read, from your research and your journalism, what's going on?
I wouldn't call it research and journalism. I'd call it boredom during daylight hours. But I mean, from what I've seen on Twitter, at least, there's been multiple fundraisers. So it's not necessarily just that, it was, just one or the other. The main one in question, though, that caused the most uproar, initially started off as a fundraiser for her family.
Okay.
And then once it was essentially found out that Aya rahmatullah alayha was Shia, suddenly it's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize, she was Shia. I'm going to, make sure everyone gets refunds on their funding and blah, blah. And to be quite honest, I'm not surprised. And we've been around a lot longer than some of the youngers, right? Like you and I know this is no shock. This is no shock to people like you and me, who have seen a lot worse happen to this year. Seen a lot worse said. Not to take away from this incident, by the way, but I mean, I actually tweeted this the other day. I was like, backtracking on a fundraiser is a massive step down from the systematic killings that Shias have been
I read that tweet.
going. Yeah. So I wasn't surprised. I wasn't shocked. That's not what shocked me. I will obviously come on to that later. What did shock me, just a few hours ago even. But so yeah, the story was essentially that once that came out, he tried to backtrack. Obviously, he started getting all of this hate piling on him, and then he was like, not sure what to do. In order to try and reconcile it, is like, oh no, sorry, I worded it differently, and everyone called him out on it. They're like, oh, so how did you intend to word your anti-Shia rhetoric that you regret raising funds for this family, and now you're suddenly changing it to a mosque, a Sunni mosque wherever. Not that we have any issue with it being a Sunni mosque or anything, and I just want to make that clear as well to the viewers that this is not a Shia Sunni issue.
That's true, yeah.
More so, it's a Salafi Shia issue.
Definite.
I want that distinction needs to be made, because to give them their credit, there have been many Sunnis on Twitter that have stood with the Shias on this issue, that obviously were disgusted, that this backtracking even took place just based on sect. So, yeah, I don't want to take anything away from them. I want to give them the credit that they deserve, and inshallah they benefit from the month of Ramadan and any donations that they have given towards the family at least. But that was essentially the initial thing that happened with regards to the fundraiser and how it changed. Yeah.
So, I mean, so it was for the family originally, and then what the intention changed for a Sunni mosque to be made, and then people wanted refunds and started requesting their money back.
Yeah, it started off as a refund. No, it started off as I'm gonna give everyone their refunds because, we don't want to donate to the Rawafid, right? But then it suddenly, after all that tension came on the guy and then all that, backlash.
Wait.
He crumbled, and he was like, okay,
no, listen. So he actually, now I don't want to mock this guy or give out his name or anything like that. Then put that aside there, because I'm not here to bait people out. But this person, yeah, go ahead. So this person wanted to actually raise money for the family. Found out that the family was Shia, and then that's when things went tits up. Seriously.
Essentially, I even saw tweets saying, "Oh no, we can't support, or we can't give aid to a family that supports Bashar al-Assad." And I don't want to get into the politics. I'm not here for that. Yeah.
Bollocks, bro.
But it's like, we can't, who's out there killing, hundreds of thousands of innocent Muslims, blah, blah, blah. Like, I mean, you're willing to support historical figures that caused the death of tens of thousands of Muslims who are Sahabis, and do you know what I mean? But suddenly it's a problem now. Anyway,
that's
I mean,
that's
that is
I tweeted you and I put down that someone, like you're from Grove, right? Grenfell Tower was a mad tragedy from our part of London, yeah? On top of that, it happened in Ramadan as well. Now, I don't know if you're aware, but there were Shias in that building that died in Grenfell Tower fire.
Yeah.
There were Shias in that building. Now, how many people donated to the Grenfell Tower, cause? Whether it was to help rehouse these people, whether it was to help, fund these people to eat, to clothe, even some of them needed burial and stuff like that. So imagine that happened, right? And then, they imagine these Salafis or these people who are trying to withdraw their money again, right? They donate towards the Grenfell Tower and then be like, oh, can we have our money back, please? Because we've just found out that some of the victims are Shia. Oh, that's just utter nonsense, man. That's just some bullshit.
Listen, it's not something that is new to us, you know what I mean? We've been on the receiving end of this kind of sectarian targeting for so long, and it's unique to us, by the way, like in the sense that this energy does not exist to anywhere near this degree to, like, they consider us, or the extremist Salafis consider us kuffar, yeah? Okay. I mean, there are many other categories of belief systems that people fall into which are also considered kuffar, but they never go to this extent against them. Do you know what I mean? Like, even in the Grenfell Tower example that you used, like, yeah, I'm sure they were donating, and I'm sure they were aware that not every family in that building was Sunni. So they're very well aware that part of their donations are going towards non-Muslims as well. That shouldn't be an issue. At the end of the day, you're talking about, human lives that have been destroyed that suddenly don't know what they're doing. Like with Aya's family,
Mhm.
from what I understand, if I'm not mistaken, they hadn't been in the UK for long.
Mhm.
So their support structure or their financial circumstances, Allahu Alam, we don't know what the situation necessarily is, but it's an unexpected uh, tragedy and death
Yeah.
in the family that they may not have savings for. So, of course, and if they need the financial aid, the community is always there to help them. Alhamdulillah. So, yeah, I just find it so pathetic that the nasab of these people, the hatred of these people, is even even being displayed during the month of Ramadan, the month of mercy.
Not a crap, bro. Utter bollocks. But let's move on to that, onto something else. So, this obviously sparked up a big conversation, a heated debate, right? Obviously, a lot of us were disgusted. A lot of us felt like, man, like, what the hell? We just had a tragedy in the Muslim community. It's not even about it being a Shia thing, right? A mad
Mm.
tragedy in the Muslim community. A 19-year-old girl has just been shot dead, right? And you could imagine what the father's going through, what the mother's going through, if she's got brothers and sisters, and what the family's going through. Now we're here to try and help them, and all of a sudden people are like, no, we're not going to help them because they're Shia. And then on top of that, then we start seeing all the different which were other tweets that started coming about some awful, horrific stuff. I read something along the lines of, these Shias deserve to get killed. Other things about, oh, these Shias are going to go to hell. These Shias are the enemies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And things like that. And I'm just thinking, where's this animosity coming from? Where's this hate coming from? You know what I mean? What about you? What did you see?
Pretty much stuff along the same lines. But again, I wasn't shocked by any of it. We've seen it many times before. I just feel like it's the worst timing. But I mean, as I've said in one of my previous tweets as well, these nawasib are the most morally bankrupt animals to be given the quote unquote status of being human. Okay? Like the disgusting things that they come up with knows no bounds, knows no courtesy. There is no mercy there. Whoever it's
I mean,
towards.
yeah, to be honest, me growing up, right, let's not be real, I went to university and then we had the ISOC over there. And every ISOC is, leaning towards the Salafi side, unfortunately. They have a very, very strong hand and dominance. The issue with the Salafi group, and that's not all of them. I've actually met Salaf people who follow the Salafi school of thought. We're actually very, very pleasant, very, very nice, very, very polite, good akhlaq. And then you've got those that are a bit dogmatic in the way they approach, and very, very harsh and stern in the way they speak, in the way they do their tabligh. I'm sure you guys have seen it. You've seen them guys that, they've got their white hats and their big beards and their moustaches are missing, and they're just shouting. All they're doing is just shouting, and there's so much aggression and anger. And it's like, what the hell's going on? They've never had a very, very peaceful or tolerant stance towards anything. And I'm sure you guys, you've seen the old school Speaker's Corner videos. I'm not talking about recently, with the last 2-3 years. I'm talking about 10, 15, 20 years ago. If you've ever seen Speaker's Corner, what it was like then, and those people that were coming at that time, it was bad. It was really bad. And yeah, they were calling us kuffar, left, right, and centre. So yeah, like you were saying, being morally bankrupt and so forth. Like, I heard that, but what I wanted to move on to was the sheer response on Twitter. So we've got these people doing this and then that, and then we've got two groups. You're smiling. Do you know where I'm
Yeah,
going? Do you know exactly where I'm going?
go over,
Go
go
on,
on.
carry on.
No, no, I don't want to interrupt you. You're flowing nicely. Go for it.
So what I was gonna say was we had the sheer response, yeah, and this is what the main topic is, right? What do we do from here? A lot of people are saying that, oh, this is what you get for cursing the Sahaba, or disrespecting the wives of the Prophet and so forth. others are saying that we're not here to compromise our faith or our beliefs. What is, haq is haq, and what is part of our faith is part of our faith, and so forth. So now we've got people going back and forth saying, "Oh, we got to do this, or we got to do that, or we need to do unity, and we need to, And then there's others saying that no, we can't let go of our values. So, Murtada, Chef, tell us, where do you stand on this? Let's start with, what did you see on Twitter in regards to this debate?
Well, in terms of the Shia response, I think the more positive stuff that I've seen is that people did actually get in contact with the family. I did see a fundraiser out there, which, alhamdulillah, looks like it's been spreading quite well, and they've managed to gather plenty of donations helping the family directly, okay, with their permission. And there are obviously some that kind of, as a reaction to this backtracking from the fundraiser that was then, kind of just flopped because they found out they were Shia. I guess you could say it was an emotional response, but inshallah, their heart was in the right place at the end of the day. They wanted to obviously help this family that thought, or may have thought, they had like a helpline, and suddenly it was taken away from them, type of thing, right? So although there was a post from a family member which said that, none of these fundraisers have asked for our permission, so don't donate to them, I think it was in response to the ones that were suddenly becoming anti-Shia in nature, and suddenly twisting up what they what they were going to then do with the money.
There's a lot of fraudsters as well, and people just jumping on the bandwagon looking for an opportunity for a quick cash.
Of course, and that some of the people that I had spoken to today, that was one of their primary concerns. Is that not too long ago there was that one guy, I forget his name, who was on Instagram or whatever, and he conned like something like 300,000.
You're talking about the jinn exorcism.
The jinn exorcism.
Yeah. Go on.
Like, that's still fresh in people's minds. So, like, immediately when you see a fundraiser and all of this madness happening, it's natural that people have those kind of concerns. Do you see what I mean? So the transparency of these GoFundMes are quite important. And I feel like most of the ones that had been started by Shias had tried to be as transparent as possible. So you obviously had the one that had the initial contact with the family, that had their permission, and that was raising directly for them. And then there was another one which I saw, which was raising money for Sadaqah Jariyah for Aya, so that she could obviously benefit from any good deeds, an unlimited amount of times, in the hereafter. Make her time in her grave easier, inshallah. And so what really bugged me, or I didn't quite understand, I should say, is that there was now suddenly a wave of Shias on Twitter who were now against these GoFundMes as well. Not the one that had direct permission, but the ones that kind of, in a knee-jerk reaction, just set up their own GoFundMe to do the Sadaqah Jariyah, and obviously any excess would go straight to the family. And, they were being deemed as trying to gain Jannah points. And I just thought to myself, okay, let's just assume, that these people, they were trying to do it for the sake of looking good in public. Let's say there was even the riyah involved. That riyah only hurts themselves. It doesn't hurt the girl or the family. The girl still benefits. Aya still benefits from the good that comes out of the project that was done in her name. The family still has that support, knows that people are there and that they care. So this person, if, obviously I'm not saying they were, I'm saying if they did it out of riyah, then only they miss out on the good deeds of their actions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I never really considered it that big a deal. As I said, as long as there was transparency on what's being done with the money, where it's going, and everything is held fully accountable in that sense. But yeah, it just shocked me. And then I actually saw one guy. I'm obviously not gonna give out any ats or names.
Yeah,
No, we
that's
don't.
all we're about.
No. We tried to be as merciful in this month, and inshallah, everyone's near is pure. But you know, I don't want to assume intentions at any point. So obviously, I understand that some people, it's a very emotional time for people on both sides. The ones that were doing the fundraising, the ones that obviously were opposed to it being done without the family's permission, and you know, I see a lot of people making the argument that, you know, let the family grieve. You know, there's so many people trying to get in contact with them about these fundraisers, and though it's a valid point, at the same time, you know, you're saying let the family decide if they want to do a GoFund, but then that kind of counters your own argument, does it not? You're saying let the family grieve, but how are they going to grieve if they're worried about these GoFundMes
Yeah.
and fundraisers? If anything, it takes some of the burden off. If anything,
Do you know how much it
at
costs
least
to do a funeral, by the way?
say that funeral.
Yeah, how much does it
Oh,
cost in the UK to do a funeral? Do you know?
you're talking tens of thousands.
The minimum was about £5,000, 5Gs, 6Gs minimum. So those of you who are watching, big shout out to everyone that's watching. Actually, I would mention your names, but it's not one of them shows where I'm gonna go and big up people because it's one of them serious tragic ones. But if you guys ever, God forbid, you have to go through it, but if you have to organise a funeral, you're looking at about minimum 5 to 6 Gs, right? 5 to 6 grand. It's gonna cost you. You have to go and then you have to. Go to hospital, and then you got to collect the death certificate. Go to the town hall, show the death certificate. Then they give you a green slip to release the body. Release the body. Then you got to do the also. You got to buy the land, the plot in the graveyard, which has been organised from beforehand.
Speaking of which, just to add to that, if in the person's will, assuming they have a will, of course, they say that they don't want to be buried here, you then have to worry about transporting the body to wherever they want to be buried if it's part of their will. It's you have to fulfill that as that person's, you know, if you're in charge of their burial.
So there's a lot that goes into it. So people who are actually fundraising for this family, right? It's a good thing, and it's really really going to help, especially right now where we've got furlough, quarantine, lockdown. We don't know if you know the family's working, the family has enough savings or so forth to actually, you know, finance such a funeral. But moving on from that. What I was shocked when I was reading up on this. First of all, we were disgusted that these people are asking for their money back, right? Because we're Shia. Fine, you know, filth is filth. But then on top of that, I saw Shias, right, talking about, oh, this is what you get when you curse the Sahaba. This is what you get when you're trying to, like, you know, when you're not uniting and so forth. And I'm thinking, what the hell are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, let's be real, all right? Do you think the fact that we curse the Sahaba, right? And the truth of the matter is we don't curse any of the Sahaba. We curse the enemies of the Ahlul Bayt, right? The Sahaba, the righteous Sahaba that were there with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who were there to also support the Ahlul Bayt. We have nothing but love. Even like they're on levels we can't even imagine and we can't even reach to. But we got.
May we be the dust beneath their feet.
Exactly. Yeah. May we be the dust beneath their feet, right? But then you've got, you know, what we call in our language the badmash, the bullies, the thugs, and the chances of Mecca and Medina, who were nothing before Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came and then seized the opportunity for their own political gains or for their own, benefit. And then also, let's not forget the Umayyad family and what they did to Islam, which was absolutely shocking. So, when it comes to
not that the Abbasids were any better, by the way.
Yeah, fair enough.
Some would argue they were even worse.
Yeah. So when it comes to this La'an, right? Me personally, if you ask me, La'an is part of our faith. It's one of the pillars. It's part of our faith. It's one of the pillars. Yeah. When it comes to Amal bil Ma'ruf and Nahy al Munkar and Tawalla and Tabarra. Yes. That we can't escape. Right? Well, we can't escape it, neither can the Sunnis, right? If anyone's got an issue with La'an, right? First of all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does la'an. Yeah? He sent la'an on shaitan. You know? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi sent la'an. Right? He sent la'an on those who didn't join the army of Osama. Yeah? And then on top of that, there's plenty of our imma and our ziyarah and our dawahs that has la'an with name and without names as well. Yeah? So we can't come out and start saying that, oh, we can't do la'an, or, you know, la'an is this or la'an is that, when it's blatant that it's part of our faith. It's in the Quran. We have, you know, the Almighty, we have our imma, we have the prophets, everyone's sending la'an. So what's this about we can't do la'an?
Well, I mean, this is like one of those every year debates that takes place on Shia Twitter, and quite frankly, I've had my fill of it, and like I'm kind of done with it. But to be honest, my personal position on la'an has actually evolved since since I became Shia 8 years ago. So obviously, in the very beginning, everyone's skeptical about actually doing la'an. They're like, but is it my place to do so? But then you see a lot of these evidences that you mentioned. For example, the Imma, the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa alayhi. And even in the Quran, forget just Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself sending la'ana. He specifically says, with regards to the dhalimeen, the oppressors or the wrongdoers, upon them is the la'an of Allah, the angels, and mankind. Not even a specific group of mankind altogether. So there's definitely evidence of la'an. Now, the principle of la'an is in the Quran. We can't escape it. Number one. Number two, I want to stress this point to any Sunnis that may be watching. They need to understand that any of these personalities which they have love for, when we are doing or asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to remove his mercy from specific names, they need to understand that we are not cursing the individuals that they revere per se. As in, what I mean by that is they have a very different picture that was given to them from childhood as to what this person was, what this person did, and so on and so forth, right? The picture we have is obviously things that we've been taught, or the things that we've seen, we've read, which we believe puts them into the category of a dhalim, or makes them an enemy of Ahlul Bayt. Now, this can then be discussed as a topic or an area of debate. Were these people actually what you say they were, or were they actually what we say they were? But it's not like we're doing la'ana on someone who is unanimously considered to be, a righteous person. That makes no sense. Indeed. Because then we'd just be sending la'ana on random people. Yeah. Why not send it on the imams? Why not send it on the Sahaba that we praise? Do you know what I mean? It's not out of thin air. There's obviously an understanding that needs to be made in that sense. Secondly, when it comes to the etiquette of la'ana, we can obviously see from the imams themselves that most of the places in our sources where they're actually seen, and this is where my opinions changed when I actually read a bit more into it, when I actually contemplated more on it. You mentioned ziyarat in their dua.
Yeah.
The imams themselves say, I don't get up from my sajjada. This is from Imam al-Sadiq in Bahar al-Anwar, where he says, I don't get up from my sajjada without sending la'an. What do you do on your sajjada?
The biggest proof, Sayyidah Fatima Zahra Salamu alayha, the biggest proof, she used to do la'an after every prayer.
Exactly. And what is prayer? It's our private time between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So my view on it has changed to the point where not so much the concept I disagree with, but rather I've educated myself on the etiquette. Now, we have no intention ever of antagonizing Sunnis or specifically attacking their beliefs, or
it's not like a personal thing that we're trying to attack a Sunni brother or sister, or we're trying to like mock them or we're trying to insult them. I mean that's where Latin can been taken a bit too far. Where if I'm gonna go up to I've got Sunni friends, male and female, and that. If I go and rub it in their face like, oh, Latin on Abu Bakr's gonna go to hell and this and that, that's just wrong. I mean, I don't like condone that.
It's unnecessarily provocative.
Exactly, and on top of that, it's bad manners, and that's not what we were about. You know what I mean? We are the followers of the Ahlul Bayt. We have to akhlaq.
Oh yeah, no, that's something I've heard for the last 8 years, like, especially when I was coming in to Tashayyu. Akhlaq of Ahlul Bayt, akhlaq of Ahlul Bayt. That's all you ever hear is akhlaq of Ahlul Bayt.
Akhlaq is very important. It's one of the most important things.
Oh no, 100%.
Yeah, but I know what you mean. I know where you're coming from.
You know what I'm going with this.
Yeah, I heard that. But what
it's great to sing the praise of akhlaq of Ahlul Bayt, but then practicing it is another issue. So that's why I'm saying the etiquette of it is important. So when we're talking about akhlaq of Ahlul Bayt, we're talking about their etiquette, their manners, how they did things, how they interacted with human beings. And this is another point that I want to touch up on, because it was something that I was thinking about recently and I had come across it, is this idea of the type of people which are considered religious. Yeah. And a lot of the time, it's a very common trend now, by the way, you will have people who hear the term religious and they start to cringe because they've associated haram police, these people that are like constantly on your case. They're like, oh, that's bid'ah, that's shirk, that's haram, you shouldn't do that, where's your hijab? But forget all of that. Yeah. First, be a likable person. Okay, be a genuine person, because that is essentially what your interactions between people are about. Yeah, anything you do in terms of your salah, your fasting, XYZ, that's for your own sake. You're doing that to save your own hide on the Day of Judgment. But when it comes to the religion in terms of interacting with other human beings, where the akhlaq comes into play mainly, it's all about, like Rasulullah, the Imams, they were people that were loved by people who just came into contact with them. They were moved by them, obviously assuming that the people that come into contact with them weren't hypocrites. So that's how we need to be. That's what we need to strive towards, I believe. Like, it's just, and obviously doing lana provocatively is not going to achieve that. So my point was, or where I was heading with the whole etiquette thing, is that whenever this concept of Latin comes up, it's never to antagonize or provoke, other Muslims. The only reason we do it is because we believe it's in the Quran, and that we believe the people we're doing it to are dhalimeen. And let's say, for argument's sake, and I'm saying this to any Sunni that's watching, keeping in mind that la'na is simply a dua, that Allah removes His mercy, and it's nothing more. By the way, we're obviously not condoning seb, so the use of foul language. This is not akhlaq of Ahlul Bayt. So using of foul language, of those type of things, that's not encouraged at all by any of or majority of Maraja. It's not encouraged by at all. So the majority position of the Shia is that you don't insult or use foul language when referring to anybody, really. So that being said, considering it's simply a dua that Allah removes His mercy, let's say we're wrong, okay? There's really not much of a need for you to feel upset, because if we're wrong, then our du'as are just going to get rejected. That person will not be affected. Then, and if anything, it's only having a negative effect on ourselves, so shouldn't really bother you. Likewise, if we are right, then it makes sense for us. If our perspective of that person is correct, then it kind of makes sense that we're doing Latin on them. Do you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, we're never going to do it, or at least I believe it shouldn't be done, in someone's face to provoke them, to make them feel upset. Like, that's not what Latin is about. That's not what Tashayyu is about.
So do you think that these people withdrew or wanted to withdraw their charitable gesture because we said Latin? Do you think it's to do with that, or do you think it's to do with that actually these Salaf just hate us?
I mean, it's one of the reasons they hate us. it would be silly to assume otherwise. But it's not the only reason they hate us. I think it's one of the excuses they will use. Why? Because when you have an opposition, I mean, I don't want to come across as if it's us versus you, but it's an opposing ideology. Well, that's what it's become. Through no fault of ours, by the way. We've always, so many years I've been seeing all of this. Now we need to unite. We need to unite. It's always been one-sided. I'm sorry. Yeah. And you always have a large opposing force from the Salafi Wahhabi side that are like, we will never unite with the Rawafid who curse. It's an excuse. So why is it then that they hate us if it's not just because of the Latin? Well, when you have an ideology which opposes yours, which makes you feel uncomfortable through the points that they're raising, when they show you, let's say, potential shubahat, flaws, dilemmas within your beliefs that you don't want to face because it's too difficult, or your entire ideology could potentially crumble as a result. It's not easy, right? That is not an easy step to take. I went through it. My ideology, I was Sunni before. So obviously my entire ideology was broken down before I could rebuild Shiism on top of it. And it's very difficult when you were raised believing one thing your entire life to suddenly being told, oh, you were wrong, by the way. Especially on something you were so certain of, do you know what I mean? And something which is as detrimental as your afterlife. It's a huge thing. So we should never obviously downplay that aspect of it. That being said, so when you have an opposing force which then tells you, you know, you have to rethink these beliefs, it's a bit of a knee-jerk reaction to be like, no, you're wrong. No, I'm right. No, you know, I can't. There's no way I can be wrong, because it's easier to stay on your path. Because let's say, for example, I know, you know, we've heard the story many times of reverts that had to practice taqiyya because their family would be very harsh towards them if they found out they were Shia.
I know some who are doing taqiyya right now, reverts, unfortunately.
Yeah. So it's obviously a very hard path to take, and we know this. So it's easier then for them to say, no, I'm right. I'm just going to use an emotional argument to attack you. Oh, how can you say this about the wife of Rasulullah? I'm like, okay, well, forget what I'm saying. Read what the Quran says. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you himself that being the wife of a prophet is not an automatic ticket. The wives of previous prophets, though they were married to righteous men, were people of hellfire.
The wife of Hazrat Noah, the wife of Hazrat Lot.
Ahsant, on Surah 66 for those who want to look up the reference. Verses between 1 and 10, I believe. So, like, do you know what I mean? So it's not like we're pulling these concepts out of thin air, but at the same time, any emotional argument you can use to sway people, because not every person is on the same degree rationally or logically. Some people don't think to ourselves, well, okay, that's an emotional argument. They don't make that distinction. They hear an argument, it moves them emotionally, and they're like, oh my God, he's so right. How can you say that? Are you trying to say? And you know, I've heard certain arguments about, oh, you know, if you ask the Jews, who was this is my favorite one, by the way. If you ask the Jews who are the best of people, they'll say the companions of Moses. If you ask the Christians who are the best of people, companions of Jesus. If you ask the Shia who is the worst of people, companions of Muhammad. I'm like, hold on a minute. Let's actually analyze what the scriptures say. Some of the companions of Moses, when he went away, tried to kill his brother. Tried to kill his brother. They started worshiping the golden calf. So let's analyze the facts. Companions of Nabi Isa alayhi salam, of Jesus. Judas literally snaked him to the Romans.
60 pieces of silver.
For 60 pieces of silver.
Not even gold, silver.
So I mean, it's not that far-fetched a theory, considering the Quran mentions there were munafiqeen around the Prophet. It's not a far-fetched theory. But anyway, I feel like we're digressing too much from the main topic, which is obviously the...
So look, we've discussed already what happened on Shia Twitter. We've discussed the stance of certain individuals who wanted, their money back. We've even discussed on Shia Sunni unity. Now, I'm going to quickly talk about Shia Sunni unity and where I stand on it, where I do believe in unity amongst all human beings. I think that we can unite, all schools of Islam can unite on Tawheed, we can unite on Nabuwa, we can unite on charity, we can unite on fighting oppression and aggressors, we can unite on a big enemy, which is unemployment. We can unite on fighting unemployment. We can unite on fighting hunger. There's so much we can unite on, which is to make the world a better. I am really drinking.
Bro, this has become iconic on my Instagram live. I'm known for downing iron brew.
We can unite on so many things, but one thing is that I'm not willing to do is compromise my faith. So at the end of the day, and another thing I want to put out there is that they always say, oh, you say bad things about the Sahaba, or you say this and that about the Prophet's wife and this and that. These guys say that Abu Talib was a kafir. Openly, yeah. They go like he didn't die a Muslim. You know what I mean? And
the thing is,
by the way, the Shia perspective, our narrative is that some say there's two narratives. One say Muslim, the other one says Khalifatullah, as in Hujjatullah, the proof of Allah at the time. Was Abu Talib before Rasulullah was Abu Talib. So those are the two narratives, right? And people go back and forth with that. So that's our narrative. You
just to add to that, by the way, just sorry to cut you off, but you see the way we react to that belief. We're like, okay, you know what? Based on your sources, that's what you believe, but that's not the belief that we hold. Like, why can't it be the same thing in reverse?
Exactly.
Do you see what I mean?
Brush it under the carpet. We're like, okay, yeah, carry on. You know what I
mean? We just dismiss it as that's what your sources say. And, if you are true to your own creed and you obviously follow what your sources say, of course you're going to believe that. It's not the end of the world. I'm not going to cry about it because I am very well aware of what the true status of Abu Talib alayhi salam was. Right? Our sources are very clear on that. We have our convictions on that. It's not going to make the position of Abu Talib any lower if you think he's a kafir. That's just on you. You're going to have to face Imam Ali on Yawm al-Qiyamah. And answer for that belief, not me. So why does it bother me? Why would it bother you if I'm, saying if I believe certain person was X, Y, Z? I have to answer for it on the Day of Judgment. So I feel like these things need to be reciprocated.
Indeed.
That's where the problem lies.
Indeed. I feel that it's always us that has to compromise, or it's always us that has to come with our tail between our legs and be like, oh, so sorry, you know what I mean? It don't even make sense. It doesn't make sense anymore, and it's just like, why can't you guys just let us be who we have our faith and that's it. Yeah, we have differences, but we can still get along. We can be civil to one another. We can still get along. I don't understand. Any final thoughts? Because it's been about 45 minutes, and I'm sure you want to go and smoke your pipe. I gotta eat.
Yeah, you gotta eat. Of course you do. Yeah, I just feel like. At the end of the day, we're in the holy month of Ramadan. I feel like emotions are quite high. My final message to people watching would obviously be that in the month of mercy, we should try to have mercy towards other people as well. We're always told if you want mercy from Allah, you should be merciful to people yourself. So we should try to be a bit merciful to our fellow Shia out there who are, fundraising for this family, whether it was done without their permission or not, because that was one of the issues that I just saw quite heavily discussed. And people were trying to get that fundraising shut down. You're only hurting the family by doing so. Anyway. So yeah, I feel like to anyone watching who's not Shia, who's maybe Sunni or otherwise, just understand obviously that we're not out to to hurt your feelings or whatever. It just happens that our perspective is slightly different based on narratives that exist on Islamic history. So just try to be a bit understanding. Maybe discuss it with someone of knowledge who could provide you with sources about our beliefs, rather than just jump to conclusions, rather than just getting emotional, because that doesn't really lead us to anywhere constructive or positive. So yeah, that would be my final thought. Just to have a bit more rahmah, mercy. The whole 70 excuses thing, again, that was flaunted a million times when I came into Shiism. Oh, look at them, 70 excuses for your brother. But since then, I've never seen these 70 excuses being dished out. They're holding on to it like these coupons or something that will last them forever. They were, Allah, bro.
My final thoughts is that I just want to big shout out to everyone that actually came and watched our little discussion here. In regards to what happened on Twitter was a very big eye opener. That even in the month of Ramadan, certain people are not going to be, accepting us. And to be honest, I spoke to some people in regards to this. I'm not going to mention their names, and also I read up on this as well. Some people tweeted, or some people put it out on their social media, that it's not about us trying to prove anything to them. It's not about us trying to get the acknowledgement or get their certification or anything like that. It's why even entertain them anymore? Just brush them to the side. Like, you got your thoughts and your opinions, and keep them to yourself. We're not here to defend ourselves for you, because it's not really, it's not really a war or a fight. If you know what I mean. It's that you've got an issue with my beliefs, and fine, that's your issue, innit? Deal with it.
Yeah, and I feel like with the surgence of these like anti-Shia propaganda YouTube channels and whatnot, these issues regarding our beliefs are constantly brought to the front line by them, not even by us. Like, you'll seldom see a Shia on Twitter just randomly curse someone, that they praise for no reason. So it's obviously not being made an issue by us per se. So I mean, so it's important to be wary. Oh, that's another thing I want to say to anybody watching. I beg you, do not engage with these nawasib. You will not get anywhere.
Yeah.
The only thing you're going to do is help them get more views, help them get spread even more. The more outrage you cause by giving them attention.
They're not here to learn. They're here just to argue. That's all they want to do.
Like, there was a certain figure, the Imam of
Regent's Park Mosque.
no, on Twitter. I'm talking about he was an absolute, like, nobody knew him. Okay. On Twitter he had no followers, Zen, and now he's like the Imam of something.
Well, are you gonna bait him out? Don't bait him out.
Nah, I'm not gonna bait him out. But my point is, like, he was saying the most outlandish things.
Okay.
Right? If people never responded to him, never quote tweeted him, never gave him any attention, he would not be on the tens or hundreds of thousands of followers on now. And he's got a huge platform. Wow. We're reaching so many people with, beliefs that most people consider controversial, not in line with, akhlaq of Ahlul Bayt and so on. So, and the thing is, you created this monster. You created this monster by quote tweeting, by atting, by bringing attention to him, raising people's awareness to him, and then he ended up gathering all the clowns that think like he does. Oh. And that's why I'm saying, do not respond. Do not give them the satisfaction. Do not give them the airtime. Any nawasib, if it's someone who's genuinely curious, who's genuinely inquisitive about the Shia faith, discuss it in private. There's no need to air that on the timeline. Salman caught on to who I was talking about, but, but yeah. So yeah, that's the final thing I want to say. Is just don't give him the airtime, please.
Thank you very much.
As much as we love, that little notification coming up, or someone liked your tweet, someone retweeted your tweet, gives us that little endorphin rush. I fall into that trap myself. Don't worry, I totally hear you, and I totally understand. But just fight the urge, please.
As a finding that, none of this would have happened if Aya Hachim wasn't shot. So please, guys, in your own time, if you could please recite Surah Fatiha for her. and also
That's it.
keep her family in mind. It's a very very difficult time. I'm sure maybe one day they may come across this conversation we just have. They may approve, they may disapprove, but you know, let's not forget that they're going through a really hard time right now, and we're not here to profit from that. Where some people, unfortunately, are here to profit, or they are, things have escalated so much from her death, and it's like, yo, come on, someone's just died, man. Like, we need to bury this girl. The family are going through shit, and then you guys are fighting like cats and dogs again. The whole Shia Sunni Shia Salafi thing has just been ignited from this death, and it's like, come on, man, let's bury the girl. Let's do Fatah. Let Ramadan finish. Let's do Eid, and then we can discuss this later. But unfortunately, the behaviour's been appalling. So what can we do? Right.
I mean, it's peak when it actually, for the first time in how many years, Shia and Sunni is trending on UK Twitter, and Katie Hopkins is jumping on the bandwagon with a flipping soggy face, bruv. A jarring woman.
I don't even know what to say about Katie, man. I used to follow her just to attack her. I just got bored and I feel like throwing up reading her tweets. Honestly, I don't follow her anymore. She got banned for a bit, which was nice, and then now she's back on.
Oh, she got trolled. She got trolled recently as well. That made me crease. But yeah. To end on your point, as you said, at the end of the day, the whole purpose of this discussion, the whole purpose of this uproar, this attention that has been gathered around this, was obviously the innocent life that was lost in a crossfire, from what I understand, between gangs or something along the sort. At least that's what's been reported. And has been spoken about from people that were actually local. So, like you said, again, I want to remind everyone, please recite Surah Al-Fatiha for Aya, and keep her family in your du'as, keep her family in your thoughts, because it is a difficult time. Like, I can only imagine what it's like. And there was a gut-wrenching message that her father gave out, where he said that his back had been broken. Like, I can totally, like, the connection a father has with a daughter is something different. Like, it's not like a father and son.
It's special.
It's a much special. It's very special. Like,
it's probably the most sensitive relationship and the most special. It's not like mother and son. Mother and sons are normally close, but father and daughter is something else. It's even closer.
Yeah, so it's like it's a very very difficult thing for the father to go through. So again, try to I totally understand, and that's why I understand the people that have the thought process of let them grieve. So let's just keep them in our du'as. Inshallah, Allah makes it easy for them. Inshallah, Allah gives them a mountain of sabr and more. To help them get through these difficult trials, and inshallah, with our support, they'll come on top of it all.
Inshallah. All right, guys, thank you very much for joining us. Salam and du'as. We are out, and hopefully we'll be doing this again. If you guys liked it, contact us. You got our numbers and whatever. Tell us you enjoyed it or you didn't enjoy it, and hopefully we'll be back